What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the TV Toycast YouTube channel, and it's that time, that monthly treat for the one and only Tales of the Toybox. I do appreciate everybody checking out this show and joining me to dive into a deep dive of these awesome toy lines. And if it's your first time checking out Tales of the Toybox, I appreciate you checking it out. This is episode 4, of course, but also check out my other episodes, including Episode 1, which was all about Street Fighter G.I. Joe, which was a lot of fun. Of course, WWF Hasbro came in at Episode 2, Series 1 of WWF Hasbro. And then Episode 3 was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we're hitting a lot of cool stuff right out of the gate. In Episode 4, no different, as we are diving into the world of the X-Men. And I kind of want to give a brief history of my knowledge on X-Men, because I remember, I've told this story before, but I remember being in first grade, and a kid on the playground had some X-Men figures, and I saw Wolverine for the very first time. Now, it wasn't the Wolverine we're going to cover here with Series 1, but it was the one that came later with the yellow and black. I'll try to throw a picture up here of him. He had the retractable claws, and it was the coolest figure I'd ever seen. And at that point, my figure collecting, obviously I dipped into Turtles, and I dipped into Terminator 2 and things of that nature, but I was pretty much only into wrestling, and so seeing these really opened my eyes, and I was like, I've got to get some of these, and get some of them I did. I was all in, and then, of course, I found the cartoon, and then, picked up a couple of comic books. I never had any comic book shops close to me, so it'd be like whatever they might have had at the grocery store, whatever they might have had at Walmart. I was all in on X-Men. I just thought these guys were the coolest, one of the coolest cartoons genres I had ever seen. And it'd be fun to dive deep into this line. And it's such a cool line, too. We're going to go ahead and get started with it. Of course, we start with Apocalypse. And this guy was one of the coolest villains. Of course, you go with the card. The cards on these were just unbelievable. The card art, where it kind of looked like a comic book. And a lot of these came with a trading card as well, which was always kind of fun back in the day when you had that little extra packed in there. So maybe you didn't collect comic cards, but you got one here. And it usually wasn't even the character of the figure you were buying. It was just someone random, and that kind of made it even more fun. But Apocalypse, such a cool figure. And of course, he had that expanding body where he could extend his body, which was awesome. And again, I think they redid Apocalypse later in another wave, but man, this original is just super cool. Like, to me, he was such a good villain. And I think a lot of people obviously go to Magneto as like the main villain, but there's something cool about Apocalypse, no doubt about it. Next up, we've got Colossus. This is actually one character I'd never owned, I don't think. I still don't think I have this one in my Toy Biz collection, because I do have a lot of these. Again, I love the cards on these. They have the characters, up in the corner, very comic book-esque. The Uncanny X-Men, of course, he's got power lift action, where he can press the button on his back to activate his power lift action, which I guess is, kind of him curling that big thing. It kind of looks like a barbell, but it's obviously just a piece of equipment. But a Colossus, I love the costume. I like the metal arms and legs. I'm just like, this dude is freaking awesome looking. And some of the names on these guys were so cool, too. And I think that's really what brought me into liking this line so much, is like these guys kind of had the look of pro wrestlers, but just way over the top. And to me, it was like, oh, these are phenomenal. Got to get more. And I'll tell the story of some of the first ones I got, because one of the first ones I got was actually this guy. And I went to Walmart. I had a little bit of money. I told my dad I've got to get some of these new X-Men figures. And this is one of the ones I picked up, even though I knew nothing about him. I picked up the Juggernaut. Oh, man, what a cool figure. I mean, he had this massive helmet on his head, and this... and I don't remember this big accessory he comes with here, but let's see if I can look at it on the carding. I don't remember that right. It looks like it goes on his body, which is kind of cool. But yeah, just such a cool figure. And of course, he had little wheels on his feet, so you could kind of have that unstoppable Juggernaut action with him. Just unbelievable. And of course, he would punch with his arms if you push the button down. So these, again, all had actions. So they very much had that kind of Hasbro-esque element to them, which really made it a lot of fun. But Juggernaut, such a cool character. And anytime Hasbro's done one of these, they've always kind of upped it a little bit. Obviously, the original Toy Biz will always be fun. And I'll be honest, I would recollect these if they somehow were able to kind of redo them again. I don't think people are into retro like they were, but man, there's something special about these type of figures. So for me, I'd grab these again. Next up, we've got Magneto. Now, Magneto came with two versions. He had the magnetic hands and chest and the non-magnetic hands and chest. So, again, the magnetic aspect might not totally be necessary. I feel like he's a little slender for the line, but I know Magneto wasn't the biggest guy necessarily, but I think the metal chest piece is kind of a fun inclusion considering he's the master of magnetism, of course. But I always loved the Magneto character. I just thought he was so freaking cool. And again, I love the artwork. I believe all the villains had kind of purple cards and all the heroes had kind of like reddish orange cards, which is kind of fun. As you can see up in the corner there, only the three villains are pictured on theirs, where the heroes are on the other one, which I think is kind of cool. That way, if you don't know who these characters are, you know right away, okay, he's a villain, and these guys are heroes. And it says right there, the evil mutants. Perfect. And I always loved the back of the cards of these because they really did a good job of showing like everybody that they were producing, which I think is a cool thing because there's so many of these characters. You want to be able to show everybody like what they have and all that stuff. So Magneto, definitely a fun one. Next up, another character that I remember getting. I remember getting this in my Easter basket of all things. I don't recall getting a lot of stuff for Easter, but one year I definitely did. I got Archangel, which is kind of an ironic one. One of the original mutant superheroes, Archangel. I thought the color scheme on this guy was awesome. Of course, he had the missile shooting wings that actually would flap, which I thought were really, really cool. And he just had a cool look to him, man. And I remember years later, I didn't realize like him and Angel were like the same guy, and he kind of changed and stuff. But the name Archangel, like, that's just awesome. And like I said, such a fun character. And getting these figures was so much fun because, like I said, I didn't really have a ton of knowledge of who they were. I just thought they were cool, and so getting these guys was always a lot of fun. Cyclops also was in Series 1. Now, this version is not the Cyclops I go with. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I always go back to the animated series version of Cyclops with the hair exposed and kind of the one strap across his shoulder. That's always the Cyclops I know. A lot of people go to this one. Of course, his eyes light up, laser style, which only makes sense. He's got an accessory too, which looks like it's kind of sits in front of him, so he can maybe shoot a missile or something, which is kind of cool. But again, I feel like the figure's a little on the slender side. I could feel like Toy Biz had kind of revamped some of the molds, as you can tell. Some of them they hadn't. And this looks like one they probably hadn't updated from the original like Toy Biz Marvel line that they had probably a year or two before. But it's still a cool figure. And like I said, Cyclops will always go down as a favorite of mine. I always just thought he was super cool. And to me, he was like always the leader of X-Men, right? So how could you not like him? Another really fun character, of course, that I remember seeing on the playground and being like, who is that? And that is freaking Nightcrawler. What a cool character. Of course, he's got the blue skin, like the three toes and fingers and stuff. The tail. He's got a sword, which is kind of unique, but really, really fun. I always thought Nightcrawler was such a cool figure. And, of course, he's got the suction cup so he can like climb on stuff. Very Spider-Man-esque. And, of course, Nightcrawler could teleport, which, of course, that's not really something you could probably do in figure form too well. But, again, amazing card art, really cool figure. And I've always loved this original costume design. It's been revamped a few times over the years, but that original design, man, that will always be the one I go with, just because that's what I remember the most from him, of course. Then we got Storm. Storm, probably one of the original female X-Men that most of us remember. Although the black costume is not something that is what I go with. I always remember the white from the X-Men, the animated series. And I get why they went with the black here because she's got the really white-ish hair. But, man, that white costume, that's Storm to me. That always will be. This actually reminds me more of the movie, oddly enough, because that's kind of what they wore. It's like the black leather in the movie, but I always like the costumes better. That just screamed comics to me. But again, great card art. Love it all. Love the lightning bolt that she comes with. Power Glow is her power, so press a button on Storm's back to activate her Power Glow chest, which is her lightning bolt logo, which is kind of cool. All of them have a have a action of sorts, very Hasbro-esque, like I said, which is always kind of fun. And it kind of gives something, I think those actions, too, is what sells a commercial. I've talked about that before, but most of us just wanted figures. But if you have something that you can put on a commercial to be like, check out what they do, it's like, oh, that's cool. And I think that's a big reason why they have it, because I know the Hasbro commercials, seeing them throw the punch and knock down the other figure, it does sell a commercial. So I could see that being a big reason why they had it back then. Last but not least, probably the figure of the wave. If you're going to buy one figure, this is probably the one you're going to get, and it is Wolverine in his classic brown and yellow costume. Again, this is kind of what original Wolverine always looked like. This is what I'm sure a lot of people remember as like their go-to for Wolverine. But I'll be honest, this is not the Wolverine I go with, because I always remember the yellow and black. That will always kind of be my go-to. But as you can see here, he's got a removable mask, which is pretty cutting edge for 1991. And again, Wolverine was kind of a guy that didn't always wear the mask unless he was like kind of in battle or something, so that was kind of cool. You can slide the wrist switch to expose the slashing claws, and wear Wolverine's mask on your finger. So the Wolverine mask is also a ring. That's kind of interesting. I don't recall anyone doing that. I guess they could have, though. As you can see, just slides right over his head there. He also has a sword, which is interesting, and I don't know if they were just like, he needs an accessory, so let's give him a sword, but he's got claws on his hands. Why would he have a sword? But, what are you going to do? But all in all, a great wave of figures here, and a perfect start. 10 figures total if you count the two different versions of Magneto, which are just slightly different, obviously. But an amazing wave of figures, and honestly a pretty solid wave. If you were getting into X-Men, this is a great way to start. These are awesome. But let me know in the comments down below, did you collect X-Men? Were you a big X-Men fan? Did you dabble in these from Toy Biz at all? And of course, obviously, Toy Biz ended up doing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and probably others that I'm not remembering. They definitely gave us a lot of different Marvel figures over the next several years, all the way up till about 2007, when they lost the license to Hasbro, which I'll have to cover Marvel Legends at some point, because that line kind of revamped everything Marvel had done and really became a top-tier line, to eventually go to Hasbro, and then they ended up getting it, and Toy Biz was kind of no more after that point. So definitely wild times for sure, but very, very cool. I appreciate you guys checking out Tales of the Toybox. This is always fun to do. And it's always fun to dive into all these fun characters and to talk about all the cool aspects of this line. More of these to come. I got so many other toy lines I want to cover. Obviously, Ninja Turtles was last month. I have more wrestling I would like to cover. And there's also some random lines I would like to cover. I think Power Rangers needs to be covered at some point. LJN Wrestling Superstars needs to be covered at some point. What else would be He-Man Masters of the Universe, obviously. So many others. So we'll try to get to as many as we can and try to keep it a lot of fun. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, obviously also needs to be covered. So we'll get there eventually, and it'll definitely be a lot of fun. But thank you guys for checking out the TB Toycast YouTube channel. Make sure to check out my unboxing videos. I do 3 unboxing videos every single week, and I do not Tales of the Toy Box, What's on the Pegs every Saturday, to kind of talk about what I'm finding on the pegs in my toy hunts. So check that out on Saturday as well. Thank you guys for checking out the TB Toycast YouTube channel. Also, check out the TB Toycast podcast, where me and Travis dive into a different main event every week. We also talk about all the news and happenings of the toy world that particular week. So check that out wherever you get your podcast. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you guys for checking out the TB Toycast YouTube channel, and we will see you in the toy aisle.
Yeah. One more time. It ain't over till I say it's over. So lock the cage up, cause this is a takeover. The wait's over. If this the final time we meet, then you'll be on your back on my feet. Then I'll tip the cage over as a hangover. I'm super fly, so I can splash off the top. And I can shut down the shot.